WuSA, wake up South Africa. You've been sleeping far too long. Wake up South Africa. Now come along and sing this song. Wake up South Africa.
First, I'd like to say some prayers. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gena Gena Shalakaya Chakshur Umlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagojatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopi Shri Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namam Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govana Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pishachadeshtarani Vanchikalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak. And I was asked to speak about depression and the spiritual dynamic. So I'd like to say that oftentimes we're afraid of depression and we're afraid of feelings, especially feelings. I mean, we're not usually afraid of happiness, but we're often afraid of feelings that don't feel peaceful. I've been doing a class with Ram Baru Devi, and her class is called Name Your Feelings, and we're learning a lot about feelings. And really, our feelings are given to us by Krishna. We are sentient beings in the spiritual world. There's so many feelings and so many rasas and so many emotions. But somehow in our material consciousness, we become afraid of feelings, and we become afraid of depression because we think this means there's something wrong. And really, feelings are meant to really show us something, to wake us up to another level. So we'll be focusing on depression. And interestingly enough, depression is really a natural part of life. Now, I don't know, some of you are young, but I don't know if, has there been anybody here in the class that has not experienced depression at least once in their life? I'm just interested if anybody, okay, you have not experienced depression, okay. So there may be more. Depression is a natural part of life. My first depression I experienced was when I was 13 years old. And sometimes depression can be brought on by hormones, and sometimes depression can be brought on by extenuating circumstances from the external. So mine was probably brought on by hormones. I was 13, and I just felt like the world was such an awful place. The Vietnam War was going on. People were fighting. There was fighting in my my house. My brother would oftentimes my brother and I would fight with each other, sibling rivalry, and I just felt discouraged. If this is what life is about, doesn't seem like very, very, very fun. And so I had some periods of depression, but those periods of depression, that period of depression really had me thinking and investigating. And what is this life about anyway? So it really helped me to go deeper. Of course, I didn't really go so deep when I was 13, but I just realized that something about this material world doesn't seem to feel so good. So I decided as a teenager that, this material world doesn't seem very real, doesn't seem very, if this is reality, who wants it? And so I chose another reality, and I chose to experiment a little bit with marijuana. And so I thought, well, if that's reality, who doesn't want to escape it? Because drugs and alcohol are generally an escape from what's going on. They're a distraction, they're an escape, they're some kind of taking you a different world. So I didn't want the illusion of the temporary material world, so I took the illusion of marijuana for a while, and it entertained me for a while, but it was another illusion. So what's the point? So I had to deal again with that depression, like, what is this life about? And so that inquiry and that depression brought me to Krishna consciousness, because I wanted to find out what's reality. So depression is actually meant to bring up the deeper buried aspects of our psyche, and you could even say of our soul. That's what depression is really meant for. Of course, there are different kinds of depression. And some depressions that last for long periods of time and that don't seem to go away may require some support from an outside counselor or therapist. There are sometimes hormonal depression. There can be chemical imbalance depressions. And probably the depressions I'm going to be talking about are more situational depressions. So, this whole last year with the pandemic has really created a lot of turmoil in this world. And, people are locked down. They're dealing with death. They're dealing with disease. They can't have their normal distractions. Probably the internet distractions have increased, but we feel constrained. And in that situation, like, what's buried inside of us starts coming up. And oftentimes, well, the reason we keep things buried is because we're not ready to look at them, let's say. So when we feel depressed, we can ask ourselves, what am I depressing that's now coming up in front of me? So depression may be just buried emotions coming up, questions that we haven't found the answers to yet. It can be just really looking like, what's going on for me? What's my purpose in life? A lot of times. So like for me, when I was 13, like, what is the purpose of this life? It's depressing to not know, like, what is my purpose? What am I meant for? What am I here for? And so it can create deeper inquiry. That's actually what it's meant for. Depression, and when the depression comes up, it has us investigating and questioning. Now, a lot of times what happens when depression comes up, or even other emotions, we become resistant. I don't want to feel this way. I don't like to feel this way. And we try to push it down again or push it away. And this really doesn't do anything for us. It makes us feel we become more in convoluted. We become depressed that we're depressed. We become more uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable with these feelings, and so we either can try to suppress them again, which doesn't make us feel any more comfortable, or we can start to look at them and see, what is it that I'm resisting? What's going on here? So depression and our other feelings are really meant to have us question and think more, what's going on? What's churning inside of me? What is Super Soul wanting me to look at? What am I feeling at odds with? You know, what am I thinking? What are my thoughts? And really allowing ourselves to be with our feeling and just experience it. Okay, so I'm feeling kind of sad. Now, you know, if we look in scripture, we can see that all the emotions have been exemplified in scripture. Even Vyasadeva himself, who wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, he was he didn't feel so good about exactly what he had finished. There was some kind of sadness, and you could even call it some depression. You know, I don't feel satisfied. And then Narada Muni said, well, you didn't speak about Krishna Katha. You didn't speak about the deeper topics. Those didn't come up. And so it was an opportunity for him to, okay, yeah, there's something more. So we can take depression as an opportunity for spiritual growth, an opportunity. There's nothing wrong with depression. Depression brings us to a deeper level of understanding. When Krishna left the gopis, they were distraught. They were beside themselves. They wanted to kill themselves. They just couldn't live without Krishna. So was that the purpose, that Krishna wanted them to kill themselves? No, he wanted them to dive deeper into their love, to be able to integrate even more depth of feeling for Krishna, to feel more intensely his separation, to be able to be with that pain of separation and grow and expand from it. So of course, well, I'm not a gopi, but Krishna does want me to grow. He wants me to expand and learn and go deeper. And Krishna's unlimited, and he's always growing. And we as souls have that propensity to continue to grow. And somehow, especially in the material world and material consciousness, we just want things to not change. We think we want things to be status quo. We always want to be happy. You know, we want things to be fine, no problems. That's material consciousness. And it stagnates us. And in the material world is temporary, because we can never, as a soul, be satisfied in this material world. It can be used as a place for growing, but The material world in itself, material consciousness in itself, is linear. I go from point A to point B. And when I get to point B, I celebrate because I made a goal. Spiritual life is not linear. It's multidimensional. It's dynamic. It's shifting and changing. Even Krishna himself sometimes it seems to be bewildered. What should I do in this circumstance? Now what do I do? I've got Jatila over here, and they're trying to block me from meeting the gopis. And how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Or he contemplates, the boys just went into Agasur's mouth. What shall I do? So these thoughtful processes that are stimulated by our feelings have us going on new adventures in our spiritual life. They can be opportunities for new adventure and growth. Now, the most important thing is we really have to get what we're resisting about depression, what we're resisting about COVID-19, what we're resisting about our feelings, what we're resisting about ourselves, what we're resisting about our life. This resistance really keeps us stuck. It keeps us stuck that we're wanting to, we're not wanting things the way Krishna's sending them to us. Krishna's in full control of everything. And he's sending different experiences in our life. And when we resist those experiences or push them away, we're kind of pushing away a gift and an inherent blessing that Krishna wants to give us, even though it may feel uncomfortable. So again, this is material consciousness. We push away pain, we push away things that are uncomfortable. And the process of growth is uncomfortable. So sometimes when we push away and we resist what comes to us, we're actually pushing away our growth. No, I don't really want to grow right now. I kind of just want to stay stagnant. I just want life to go on status quo. Okay, Krishna gives us respites. He gives us time periods where we can just distract ourselves from growing for a while. We can put our growth on pause. He gives us free will to do those things. And then again, the depression or the emotion may come up again, stimulating us. There's something missing here. It's our soul and super soul talking to us. You're missing something here. There's some exciting, adventurous dynamic that because you don't want to experience a little discomfort, you're going to miss out on. And so Krishna keeps sending the messages, keeps sending the signals so that we can really wake up. That's why I love your theme song, Wake Up, Wake Up, South Africa. Krishna's sending us little signals to wake up to a deeper and deeper and deeper level. Now, I feel like this is just a very interesting topic, and it's a deep topic. And I just said some preliminary things. I'm not going to talk so much more in detail about it because I'd really like to hear from some of you. What are your questions about depression? I'd really like to, have this be an interactive discussion. Because there are a lot of questions about depression. We can't really wrap our head around it. And if it's possible, I'd like this to be a little more interactive. And if it's possible, I'd like to open up for questions, you know, from our audience. Is that okay? Okay. So I've said a few things, and I don't know if I've stimulated any questions in any of you, but I really am excited to hear, you know, what are your thoughts about depression? What are your questions about depression? You know, and maybe what are you dealing with in your life as far as COVID-19 goes on? Because it's been a very restrictive, compressing, and could be depressing time for us. So let's see if we get anything. Okay, so Ram Kinkar Prabhu. Do I click on it or are you going to manage it?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Ram Kinkar Prabhu, please.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity. It's a wonderful topic, and we all are wrestling every day from time to time with with all the tricks of Maya and all the tricks of the material energy, the external energy of Krishna.
Yes.
I just want to give one contribution that Arjuna was also depressed, that he had to face his own challenges, his cousins, his family, his grandfather Bhishma, and his guru Dronacharya. He's asking Krishna, will you do that? Will you kill your grandfather and your spiritual master Sandipani Muni? You want me to do this? And this is the most serious depression I think anybody could face.
Yes.
And as a result of that, we take solace in this pastime, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, to come out of our depressions by the mercy of a spiritual master, a spiritual guide, or like an acharya like Srila Prabhupada or the previous acharyas. They have the potency to lift our spirits from deep depression.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Arjuna was in deep depression. He wanted to kill himself. He dropped his bow. He said, what's the point in living here? I'm not going to win either way. So what's the point? And out of his inquiries, he was asking questions. Arjuna inquired and he asked and he asked and he asked and he heard and he got the answers. And from that, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So his depression was a gift for us. Yeah. And that's what Krishna wants to give us from depression. He wants to give us deeper gifts. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. Silpesha Prabhu, I don't know what your other name is.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Lovely to meet you. I'm really enjoying what you're saying.
Thank you. Nice to meet you also.
And from my experiences, like having deep depression, I found it as a spiritual awakening. Actually brought me to Krishna. And can you say this is like, say, a combination of our past karmas, our past lives, where eventually turns up in one lifetime and you experience really, really deep stuff that's not very pleasant, but it kind of like undoes everything you maybe, experienced from previous times?
Yeah, it can be a combination of a lot of things. So we can see it as our past karma. We can see it as our purification. And simultaneously, it's a gift from Krishna. So like a lot of times we think of karma as, oh, I'm going to get all the reactions for all those things I did, all those bad things I did. But actually, karma is nothing but feedback. It's a gift. It's like, you kind of went off the path here a little bit. I'm trying to bring you back and, you're going in this direction. You got momentum. So it feels like I'm pushing you, but actually I'm just trying to get you back aligned with who you really are. And certainly, it can have something to do with our past karma, but sometimes if we see it as our karma, then we use that kind of as a way to self-denigrate ourselves. Oh, I'm so bad. I have so much bad karma. I must just be a really bad person. And then that kind of adds to our depression. When we ask questions, like Arjuna did, like, Krishna, what do you want? Then answers start coming to us. And from that, then we get the gift. It's a spiritual opportunity to get the gift. Now, I did have another major depression in my life when I was 47, and it was also brought on by hormones. But I wanted to kill myself. And I was so frustrated and angry at myself, first of all. And I was angry at myself for being angry. And I was depressed that I was depressed. And I just was so angry at Krishna. I said, what do you want? What do you want from me? You know, and my prayer was a yelling prayer, kind of like, thanks a lot, Krishna. I can't even kill myself because then I'm going to become a ghost. Thanks a lot. So that was my prayer. And I said, you know, really, I don't know what you want. You probably want me to look at something, but I have no clue what you want me to look at. I am like clueless. So if you want me to look at something, please show it to me. And then he did. And he sent me the resources. And I was so rock bottom that I was actually in a place where I was not resistant. I was finally willing to take support from the outside and from resources that I would have never even thought that I should take support from, because I said, what do I have to lose? I have nothing to lose. So I'm already losing everything. So sometimes we have to get to that place of rock bottom depression, and then it kind of cracks open our resistance. And then we're kind of like open, like, okay, like, I can't figure this out. I can't work it out. Everything I did in the past that I'm doing now isn't working. And so we kind of like crack open, and then we're open a little bit to receiving something new that Krishna wants to give us. And, you know, for persons like myself that are very hard-headed and hard-hearted, sometimes it has to feel like a force that we have to contend with, but it's Krishna's love. It's his loving force. It's like, I'm not trying to break your heart. I'm not trying to break you down. I'm trying to break you open. I want you to open up. And so, but we're like, no, I don't want to open up. No, I want to stay protected. No, I don't want to be vulnerable. No, I don't want to look at my fears. And then we stay in our little shell and we stay stuck. So definitely, it's definitely a gift. Did you have another question, Prabhu?
No, thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear, Mataji. It's so exactly what my experiences have been. So it's really lovely to have that validation.
Yes. And depression can be transformational.
Yeah.
Like for me, you know, it really had my life turn 180 degrees. I was going this way, and then like Krishna turned me around, and I was like, and then and I would be asking him questions. How am I going to let go of this attachment? How am I going to do this? I couldn't see how to do it. He turned me around. I was like, wow, that was pretty amazing how you did that. You know, I would have never done that. And another thing depression does is it really does have us go inside. We're so much, you know, focused on getting validation sometimes from the outside. Not that validation from the outside isn't good, but I mean, it's like, you know, we just want to get our gratification from the outside, and we want to produce results and feel good about what we've done or what we have. And we're really afraid to look inside. We're really afraid to look at those maybe not so great things that are in there, but they're not actually bad things either. They're just feelings and emotions and maybe experiences that we've had even in our past lives that we haven't yet digested or processed and integrated into our consciousness. And so when externally things are really tough, it helps us to dive inside where really our soul and super soul are located. So, but we wouldn't really do that if there wasn't some kind of stimulus from the outside. Generally, we don't necessarily do that, but that's actually what the process of Krishna consciousness is about. So thank you for your question. Thank you. Very stimulating. Sinazo, what do you have another name, Sinazo, baby? No? Okay. That's your name? Okay.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hi.
So my question is about resourcing to go deeper. Because it feels like when you're overwhelmed by the feelings of depression, it feels like if you stop resisting, you're going to be overrun by like the ocean almost. So how do you start to resource to kind of, I guess, hold up the ocean, or to resource in order to stop resisting?
That's interesting. Yeah, I want to stop resisting. Nice. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, we're resisting because we're trying to protect ourselves and trying to keep the ocean of overwhelm from coming upon us, which makes sense, logically, yeah, our resistance is trying to protect us. Protect us from what? I mean, interesting. You can think about that. Protect us. It's really trying to protect us because it's connected with the body and the subtle body. It's trying to protect us from death. That's the ultimate thing that it's trying to protect us from. Now, what happens is there are mechanisms in our body that protect us from our physical death. In a material body, we also have a subtle body, which is our, mind, false ego, and that kind of becomes our identity, our false identity, but an identity that we hold on to, kind of like our playing piece as we play in the material world. It's like a piece that we move around the game board of life. But we start to identify with that piece. And then, if our friend knocks over our piece on the game board, we're like, you hurt me, you knocked me over, and we start taking it personal. So our resistance is that we're afraid of the death of our false ego because we don't know who we are really. And we're afraid to be in that uncertainty of not knowing. We'd almost rather stay stuck in knowing, well, I know that I am a female and I do these certain services in my life. And I like that knowing. That gives me some kind of security. Now, of course, the material world is not really the secure place because it's temporary. So what is our security? What is our real security? I'm just, who's our real security? Krishna. Yeah. And so to me, whenever my brain likes to try to figure things out. So I put a lot of security sometimes in my brain and the processes of my brain and how my brain is going to figure everything out. Now, when I'm totally bewildered and depressed and I can't figure anything out, well, that's actually not a bad thing because then I'm like, okay, Krishna, help me. Help me to see what you want. And so that, it's interesting because when we try to take it into our own hands, we kind of are like shutting down and we're resisting what Krishna's sending. But when and we can even say, Krishna, okay, I want to surrender to you. I'm afraid of the overwhelm. I'm afraid of the overwhelm. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to handle it. I don't have any clue how I'm going to be able to handle this. I don't know what it means to be vulnerable. I don't know what it feels like to be vulnerable. Please send me the resources, the people, and help me to deal with this at a pace that I can integrate it, at a pace that I can digest it. And if it gets too much, I'm going to tell you it's too much, Krishna. and then you got to slow down a little bit. And Krishna's like so loving, he will do that. And he's really excited that we're starting to have a conversation with him, that we're actually treating him as a real person. He's like, oh, wow, you're talking to me? Sure, I'll talk back, you know? And so it's an opportunity for us to start trusting Krishna and putting our faith in Krishna. Now, you know, we can always take it back at any point in time because we have free will, but it's an opportunity to say, okay, Krishna, all right, okay, you know, I wouldn't choose this. I really wouldn't want to do this, but I'm just gonna give you a little trust here. Okay, help me through this. You got to be with me, Krishna, because I probably don't trust myself. I probably don't trust anybody. And so, you know, just the fact that I don't trust you, that's a part of the whole thing. So help me to learn how to trust on all levels. And to you know, give me some grounding so that I can look at my fears, so that my fears don't block me from looking at my fears. So, you know, it seems like a simple answer, but it does take, you know, our heartfelt prayers to sometimes dive in deep and look at those things. And prayer is so powerful. It's amazing. Talking to Krishna is so powerful and amazing. Was that helpful? Do you have any other question about that?
Yes, it was very helpful. I'm still digesting. I will probably ask some more.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
Could we please quickly just go to the questions on the chat group, and then we can move on to the other people who've just now raised their hands.
Okay, so chat group.
I think there are two questions.
Chat.
Yes. Can you see it, or would you like me to read it out for you?
Okay, I can see it now. There's two questions, right?
Yeah, there's two questions. Maybe.
Okay. His Holiness Bhakti Chiru Swami told me that depression comes from negative thinking. Please, are you able to comment? I do struggle with this fault. So, depression can be perpetuated by negative thought. And it may start as a negative thought. Oh, like I had an expectation things were going to go like this. I thought if I did this for 27 years, I would be a pure devotee by now. And now Krishna slam against me like I'm angry all over the place. What happened here? So a lot of times depression can come from our expectations, things not happening the way we expected or the way we wanted them to. And then we feel some frustration and then some depression. So frustration and depression sometimes link together. So I wouldn't say initial depression comes from negative thinking. However, it is perpetuated by negative thinking, and it may have negative thoughts like, oh, Krishna doesn't love me. He didn't let things go the way I wanted him to go. He's not answering my prayers. I said I wanted good health and now I'm sick. So Krishna doesn't love me. That's a negative thought and that's a perception. So our thoughts definitely affect our feelings, and our feelings definitely affect our thoughts. So self-awareness, rather than resisting our thoughts and our feelings, which are bombarding us all the time. All the time, we're feeling something and we're thinking something. We have 50,000 thoughts a day. We're being bombarded. And the material energy, the modes of material nature, they're bombarding us. So sometimes we feel overwhelmed, but when we can touch our feelings and say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling bombarded, I'm beside myself, I'm feeling confused. When we can ground in our feelings then we can start to ask questions rather than to use our thoughts to make judgments about how we're feeling. You're overwhelmed, you're confused, you're so stupid. Right there's the philosophy. The book is telling you what to do. Why are you confused? Why aren't you doing what the Bhagavad Gita tells you to do? That's our thoughts, judgment about what we're going through. We could start to ask questions. Krishna, I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling overwhelmed. What do you want to show me? What am I not seeing? What do you want to teach me? So rather than trying to put positive thoughts on top of negative thoughts or resisting our negative thoughts, which is more negativity, resistance to a negative thing is more negativity, rather than just trying to think positively or resisting our negativity, deep spiritual inquiry, asking questions opens up a new part of our brain. It opens up a new avenue for discovery because it's not something I know the answer to already. So I'm trying to impose my answer and I'm trying to impose my judgment. It's like, I don't really know what to do right now. So when we ask questions, rather than just struggling and resisting what's going on, we start to become curious and we start to talk to Krishna and Super Soul. And when we go to that place and we really are so frustrated that we really actually open our ears, Krishna can show us and send us so many things, but our resistance usually blocks that out. So that would be my comment to that. I would say that maybe the initial depression isn't a negative thought. It's a resistance. And depression can perpetuate negative thoughts. And of course, if there are chemical imbalances in the brain, that's something that also, might want to be looked at. And, using a couple different modalities to help, asking questions, getting therapy, like see what works for you. Don't be resistant to investigating different avenues of what's going to work for you, because what works for me may not work for you, depending on your situation. So take an individualized approach. That would be my answer to that question. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Mataji. That really helps. Really,
I'm
really
sorry?
helps. Thank you. That really helps me a lot.
Okay. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that. Okay, so this is from Rupa Gupta. How can we combat habitual depression caused by all the negativities of life? Okay, so, a lot of times in our tradition, we say, oh, the material world is a place of misery. It's a horrible place. There's so many negative things in the material world. Yes. And Krishna has us here for a purpose. And Krishna hasn't left us. Krishna's in our heart. And Krishna wants to show us the way out of this maze of material life. Now, when we resist the material world and all those material energies, we don't have a chance to use them. When we resist our body, when we resist our mind, when we resist our feelings, then we don't have them as a resource to use. And Krishna has given us this body, this mind, and these emotions as tools. And when we resist the tools we've been given, then we don't have tools to use. Prabhupada always said everything can be used in Krishna's service. So for a long time, I resisted my being feminine. I resisted my own femininity. I felt like I got cheated, men get to be with Prabhupada. They're according to the scriptures, women are inferior. I got cheated. I resisted my femininity until I was in my 40s. So I missed out on all the gifts of my femininity. I was trying to be a man and being strong and being renounced and pushing away my feelings. And when I started accepting and receiving my femininity, I found there are so many gifts in femininity. I was like, wow, I'm so glad I'm a woman. But I couldn't access those gifts before because I was resisting my femininity. So when we resist the tools we have, whatever body we've been given, whatever highly active mind I've been given, when we resist what we've been given, then we don't have those as tools to use. So more than the negativities of life is our resistance to life itself. Now, when we really see that Krishna's in control, not a blade of grass moves without Krishna's will. If I see negativity, then I'm not seeing that Krishna's sending this. I'm seeing it as something I need to push away. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to distinguish. I want to just clarify. That doesn't mean we don't want to distinguish abuse and ask questions about abuse. But we can use our feelings to help us to monitor, and we can really start engaging and talking to Krishna and saying, what would you like me to do in this situation? And this is a lifelong process. My answer is just like a beginning, an opening up of the book. And each page takes us deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So we're a work in progress. So just see, what are you resisting in life, and bring awareness and consciousness there, and ask Krishna, what do you want to show me in this situation? Was that helpful?
Yes, Mataji, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much.
Okay, so can you tell me who was next? Because I kind of lost track. Was it Kamaniya? And then
I think she was second. The first person was Ram Kinkar, and then Kamania, and Gail. And then last was Saradia.
Ram Kinkar Prabhu. And I'm willing to go past the hour if people are willing to stay on. I just wanted to say that up front.
Great.
Ram Kinkar
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice tools of you sharing with us to cope. I just want to say something about depression. Depression is actually creating high expectation or unrealistic expectation, not necessarily negativity. Can also be positive, but you couldn't reach the mark. Then you get depressed. So there's subtle kinds of depression. You get the negative, you get the positive, and so many other situations. And I think one good example is Prabhupada was part of a resistant movement in India to get India independent from British rule. And later on, he met his spiritual master and he said, this is more important, Krishna conscious for the world in the English medium. Then his wife stole his manuscripts and sold it for tea. And then he asked his wife, so tea or me? So, and before that also he joined the Mat, and he also saw the politics and all that. They were not taking seriously the expectation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's mission and vision. But he told the Mat that he will do everything in the end. Don't worry about him joining full time. Yeah. So if you look from the time of resistance to the mission, and then domestic at home, tea or me, and ultimately going on the Jaladuta all alone and going to Boston Harbor. He took this one goal with him, and he fulfilled the desire of his spiritual master. In spite of all the frustrations, all the negativity, and there was some positivity, but mostly negativity, because he even asked his spiritual god brothers to help him in New York to build a temple. It came back negative. We asked the Indian government to help him. It came back negative. So everything came negative. So here, Prabhupada turned the transformation. He turned negativity into positivity, and he gave us the most precious gift, pure love of Godhead that will cure all our diseases, especially depression.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Hi, Krishna. Kamaniya Devi?
She's requested to please go last. So can we please go to Gail and then
Gail.
and then Kamaniya?
Okay,
yes.
Gail. Okay, got it. Okay, Gail.
Hi, Krishna, Mother Sukhavaha.
Hari Bo, Gail. Nice to hear your voice.
Oh, yeah, I have.
There you are.
Here I am. See if I can position myself. Yeah. Yeah, I have two things if I can. You know,
Okay.
one is I don't know if you remember when you were responding to Sanazo's question, you were describing, you know, being vulnerable with Krishna, you know, and when I feel that, I think of how I often feel, which is, you know, how do I ask Krishna to help me to overcome? How do I ask Krishna to help me fully surrender to him when I don't know what he's going to put me through to get there, you know?
Right.
The reason why I really don't trust him about that is because I see the calamities that other people, devotees and non-devotees, have to go through that are too much. You know, they say God never sends anything that you can't handle, but I say that's not true.
Okay.
You know, so
well, maybe.
And I don't want that to happen to me. So I don't know.
Right. Okay, got it. Okay. You can
Okay.
make a conditional prayer. You don't have to pray, Krishna, let those calamities come again and again. Don't say that prayer. If you're not ready for it, don't say, just say, okay, Krishna, I'd like to learn to be a little vulnerable. I'm really scared. I don't want to be overwhelmed. Can you give it to me in small doses? And, you know, yeah, can you give it to me in small doses? And yeah, like that. And yeah, and then
he just doesn't do that anyway. I mean, to say, why does he send people stuff that, you know, he knows they can't handle? You know, why do I have to even say that? You know, he loves us so much. Why would he even do that?
Well, you know, we do say things at different points in time and different points in our life. And also, again, you know, if we say we want to be pure and we want to be pure in our lifetime, depending on how much stuff we've got in the past, and somebody says, I want this to be my last lifetime, and said, well, Krishna says, okay, well, I better ramp it up. You're on the crash course here. So, you know, we want to be responsible. We are desiring certain things and we are saying certain things. We may not know exactly what we're saying or what we're asking for, or the consequences of it, but Krishna is fulfilling our desires. So if somebody says, I want to go back to God in this lifetime, and they've got a lot of stuff to be purified of, then it might come like that. So, you know, we want to be careful. What are we desiring? How are we, you know, what are we saying? And if we're saying one thing, but then we're acting in another way, you know, then that also holds up the process too. So to me, the main thing is, what am I resisting? What am I resistant to? What am I afraid of? Krishna, help me deal with my resistance and my fears so I can open up to what will really help me progress in my spiritual life. Start there. And just start becoming aware. You're becoming aware of what your fears are, right?
I just wonder if it's, maybe this is a question for Krishna, but I wonder if it's possible to, you know, to simultaneously ask that this be my last life and not have calamities that will overwhelm me because I have so much stuff, much backlog. I don't know. Maybe that's the Krishna.
Well, you know, sounds to me like you want to kind of manage.
I just don't want to be overwhelmed by calamities.
Okay, so then Krishna, however long it takes, help me to go through this journey. If you make it a thing like, I want this to be my last life, that's pretty, you're making, well, I can only fit so much in one lifetime. And, if you really want this to be your last life, and that's a very strong desire, then we're going to have to ramp it up. If you want to take a more gradual process, maybe you will get there in this lifetime. But if you're trying to force it in this lifetime and force the consequences, it's like you're trying to control so much. And if you're trying to control, that's not surrender. And if you're not surrendering, then you're going to be coming back. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So just get clear on what you're expecting. You're expecting Krishna to do it your way?
Well, that would be nice, but
or you're wanting Krishna to do it your way? It might not happen. But Krishna, Father, knows best. Like he knows really, and pain may be a way to break us open. But if we're simply trying to avoid the pain, avoid the pain, we're in our shell. We're not. I want you to open me up, but don't open me up. So we're going to be stuck. I want to be vulnerable, but don't take away my shell. I want to experience love, but I don't want to experience any pain. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it too, kind of. So you want to get clear on what you want and how fast you can handle it. And the more clear you are on your intention, the more clearly Krishna can fulfill it. But if you're saying, I don't want any pain, but I want to get out right away, Krishna's like, okay, I think you need to make up your mind because those two are incompatible. I'm just making that up, but I'm just saying, when we have two incompatible desires, Krishna's like, you need to get a little more clarity on that. And then when we're clear, when we're really clear, and we're willing to take whatever it takes to get that intention, boy, can he make things go fast. And it might be intense. So you got to look at what's going on inside of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I didn't have to do that. I wish I didn't have to take responsibility for what I'm wanting.
No, it's more like wish you could have. I wish that my it's like a cake and have and eat it too. I wish that having my desires fulfilled wouldn't also have to mean being subjecting myself to pain, which is like
okay. Thank you so much for your honesty. And I'd like to say pain will be there. Suffering is optional. So when pain comes, if we resist it, that causes suffering. When we receive the pain and say, okay, what am I to learn from this? We get the message, we integrate it, and we move forward. Whatever we resist will persist. If we're resisting pain and we want to have love, and there always is a little pain with love, ask the gopis, then we're resisting love.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You're really going to get there, and you really want it, and it's going to come. And just look at what you're resisting. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
So nice to see you. I think other people might have a question, but if
we
not,
can come back to you for your second question. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Saradia? Saradia Rasa?
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you so much for the wonderful and the insightful class. So my question is that, from neuroscience, we learn that we actually can get like addicted to certain emotions because it's just neurological pathways that we've practiced, running again and again. Yes. So we see that two people would go through, say, the same experience, and the one is going to respond with anger and the other one might, respond with sadness. Right. Because it's just been practiced. So my question is, how do we distinguish between actually acknowledging and just processing our feelings and indulging our feelings? Because I think we've all seen that, in ourselves and others, we sometimes just indulge a feeling and then use that as an excuse, to justify our lack of, especially taking responsibility or our lack of accountability. Yes. So although I'm all for, feel what you feel and acknowledge it. Yes. How do we actually timelessly move beyond that and not get stuck just in feeling?
That's a very nice question. Very nice. How do we acknowledge our feelings without indulging in them? And how can we take responsibility for our feelings? So again, feelings are indicators. They're, we don't want to indulge the mind, and we don't want to indulge the emotions. We want to really, take messages and use those messages with our intelligence and with our soul and super soul. So what has helped me a lot is, when I look at the feelings, I name the feeling to get in touch with it. And then I say, what is that feeling wanting to show me? What is it trying to tell me? What do I need? What really do I need? And to me, that's compassionate communication. Marshall Rosenberg designed it. And when I can really get what my need is, then I can focus on my need and how to get my need fulfilled, either within myself or by getting support. And then once my need is fulfilled, my emotion can come down. Now, we can get addicted to all kinds of things, activities, emotions, even anger. Sometimes there's a lot of adrenaline that runs through the body when we're angry. We may even be addicted to fighting because there's some, interaction, like we like relationship, we like interaction, but fighting is one way to interact, and it may be what we learned when we were kids. So we may become addicted to certain behaviors and activities and emotions. And then taking responsibility is like, well, why? Asking ourselves the question, why does this always happen to me? Why am I always ending up in this kind of a situation? Why am I always feeling this? Like, why does this feeling keep coming back? Am I not getting the message of the feeling, or do I really like the feeling, or does the feeling, give me an excuse that, that I don't have to take responsibility? So it takes really ruthless self-honesty to get that clarity. And we need to be willing to have that ruthless self-honesty. So that means we have to know that we're addicted. That means that that's another form of responsibility. So, taking responsibility is really powerful in spiritual life. It's integrity. It's a kind of a truthfulness, a being a deep honesty, where like an integrity. So in this age of Kali Yuga, the Dharma of the bull only has one leg, which is the leg of truthfulness. And if we can't be truthful to our own selves, we're going to be blindsided in our interactions with other people. If we can't be clear about how we're relating to our own emotions and feelings and thoughts, and how we're indulging in them and not, that relationship with ourselves is going to impact all of our other relationships. Now, a lot of times self-awareness starts with relationships with others because they're more like a mirror, and they might even say something, you're being harsh right now. And if we take that as feedback rather than defend ourselves, we might say, oh, why am I speaking like that? And start to become self-reflective. So really the process of self-awareness, and truthfulness and honesty begins, with our own self. And I am writing 2 books, and the books are about some lies, some truth about the lies we tell ourselves. So when we can get clear about the lies we're telling ourselves, then we can even, that's getting to the root. Then we can take responsibility for a lot of things. But that was a good question. I don't know if I answered it or not. Did I answer it? Sorry, Dia.
Yes, thank you, Martha. That was a very, very insightful and also a very useful answer. So yeah, I think the key thing is just that very honest introspection and the desire to actually improve.
And looking for the needs helps a lot, because when we can focus on the need, then we don't have to focus on the emotion. And when we focus on the need and we find a way to fulfill the need, the emotion can come down. And then our body can get restabilized and get used to other emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, I think it definitely does make sense. I think sometimes it is difficult to, if you're not practiced, I think it's difficult to understand what that need is.
Yes,
because sometimes
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's all good, Mata. Because sometimes I think, people are so disconnected, we don't even know what we're feeling. And then we get to the point where we at least know what we're feeling, but then it is still very vague, like, okay, but what is it that I'm needing in this situation from myself or others? But as you said, I think if we just start the process, then it's a matter of practicing continuously.
Yes, and I have cards that I can send out. I don't know if I sent them out last time, but they're in not the feelings and the needs are kind of listed in Marsha Rosenberg's book, and I have a book on the practice of compassion, and I have little cards that have feelings on one side and needs on the other, because our feeling and our need vocabulary aren't really clear. So as we get practice and clarity on it, it really, okay, yeah, because you can't really come to that point without a little support system. So I don't know if there's a WhatsApp group, but I'm willing to send that card out to maybe Yosi Prabhu, and then maybe you can send it to the people on the call. I don't know if you can do that or not. I don't know. Anyway, I'm willing to do that. So we have 2 more questions. And is it okay if we go over time? Is that okay? You are the monitor. So is that okay?
Next. Yes, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
So we'll go to Kamini and then Rajalila.
She's asked, Kamini has asked that Rajalila please go first.
That's great. Okay. I didn't want to jump over her, but yes, please, Rajalila. Haribo.
Ready, Hari, Jai.
Nice to see you.
I am really excited to see you, and I thank Sardia for getting the word out to so many people. Okay. That was beautiful. Not Sardia, but Kamania. Kamania and Sardia, they work together,
I see.
So they're making sure that the Vaishnavis are getting heard. Anyway, I was just reflecting. I actually wanted to share my appreciation for you demystifying this whole topic of depression, because as we know, there's so much stigma. Just when somebody hear the word depression, it's kind of like, no, I don't have anything to do with that. I don't know anything about it. So I think you just beautifully demystified the whole topic today. I want to thank you for that. And I also wanted to share a little bit just about with Gail, because Gail asked this beautiful question. And the thing about Gail is she's so deep, she's so heart and so deep, and she's so committed and so devoted. She's such a devotional person.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many amazing qualities I could say about Gail in terms of bhakti. However, I was reflecting on on what she was asking, and I was thinking about how Krishna is Bhaktavatsal, you know, and how Krishna is always. I mean, he wants to serve his devotees, and so what we perceive as pain oftentimes is just Krishna's sweetness, his sweet mercy, his sweet will, and
Right.
so. And then I was thinking of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj when he was going through, my revered Guru Maharaj, when he was going through his karma. I mean, I'm not sorry, not his karma, but his um, what am I thinking? He was going through his what is cancer? Why? I don't know why I went blank like that just for a minute. But anyway, as he was going through his cancer, I remember in those last stages when it appeared to us that it was so painful. It appeared to us that perhaps that pain was even like suffering. He would say to us, "It does not get better than this. It does not get better than this." And so he was not experiencing any pain, any suffering. We were, because that's our consciousness, you know. So even when we get pain, there is a level of consciousness where it's sweet. And so yeah, so I was just, you know, reflecting on that for Gail.
Beautiful.
So I wanted, and I just want to thank all the participants that's on WuSA. WuSA is one of my favorites, and so I'm just grateful to be able to come and grateful to be able to see you, Sukhavaha. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a really nice community, and thank you so much for sharing that. And sometimes even like we have jaundice, so the sweetness, like we can't even handle Krishna's love. We can't handle it. Like it's sweet, but we can't taste it sweet. Like it feels like, no, this is bitter, but it's actually really sweet. And as we receive it, which is what, of course, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was doing. He was receiving and taking it all in. It was like, it just became sweeter and sweeter and sweeter because he wasn't resisting it. He was really fully embracing what Krishna had sent him. And you know, he showed us, and he was telling us and giving us feedback. It doesn't get sweeter. And our minds are thinking, no. So yeah, we're jaundiced right now. So even if we feel it's a little bitter, it's like, okay, I wouldn't really choose this, but okay. And then as we go through it, you know, you're looking back and you're like, whoa, what happened there? So it's like, yeah, we really, really want to see what we're resisting. So that was a beautiful, beautiful sharing. And I'm so glad that you brought Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj to this Sangha. I like this Sangha. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. Haribo. Okay, so Kamani, and then Gail has one more question, and I think then that'll be it. I don't want to take us too much over time. People might get upset.
Hare Krishna Mata.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to be here with two of my mentors, you and Mother Vrajlila.
Yeah.
A blessing. Thank you for making so much time for us. I know you're extremely busy. I wonder if I might be greedy and ask a two-part question.
Okay.
So my first question is, you had told me recently that the path of healing, it's natural to take steps backwards as well as forwards. How can we be mindful of feelings of complacency and despair during those times that we feel we've either stepped backwards or perhaps we've hit the plateau?
Self-awareness always brings us to what's next. So if it looks like we're taking a step back, we can look at that and say, oh, yeah, I did that same thing again. I did what I usually do. And, how did that work? It didn't work. What were the costs? But why do I keep doing that? Like asking ourselves questions. What was the cost? So yeah, it cost me my friendship, Okay, so, but why do I keep doing that? Like, what's the payoff? Well, there's some payoff there. I'm habituated to it. I'm used to doing that. And then when we're honest with ourselves and we become really self-aware, what is the payoff for me doing this? Then that can help us to say, oh, I no longer want to participate in this. So for me, like, I'll just use an example of anger and fighting. So I had a lot of anger and fighting in my life. And I didn't realize how much intense angry energy I had. It was my protective energy, but my protective energy kind of came out like, I'm going to hurt you before you can get near me to hurt me. And so I would like kind of push people away with my energy and my words. And I was completely clueless, unconscious about that. What am I doing? Couldn't see it. So, but then when I got the payoff for the anger was deflecting all of my stuff onto other people. I'm not taking responsibility. I'm too busy being responsible for making all these things happen. I don't have time to take responsibility for how I might be making you feel. I don't have time for your feelings. And my goodness, how many people did I hurt? And that realization was painful for me to see, but it was also, wow, now I can really work on this and start letting go. So, you were talking about complacency. So we often go towards what's familiar. We go to our default mechanisms. And when our default mechanisms don't work anymore, sometimes we get more frustrated, but it's actually really good when our default mechanisms don't work, because that's the chance to spiritually grow. I'll give one more example of what happens in my life. I'm a recovering workaholic. So when I get stressed, because I work so hard, what do you think I do when I get stressed out?
You work more?
I work more, right? Like, you would think that I'm stressed out, I should relax, right? That would be a thing. But no, my default is I just got to work just a little harder. And then I'm going to get done with this. And then I won't be stressed anymore. But I just take on more stress. So we have to really notice what we're doing. But when we're complacent, we're going to have the same things happening over and over and over and over again. Complacency doesn't have us growing, it has us being stuck. So if we notice that we're stuck, we might think, what am I being complacent about? And as soon as you bring awareness to that, oh, am I being complacent? Am I being in my autopilot? As soon as you bring awareness to that, you've now transformed that moment. And we can really only transform our life one moment at a time. And then in the moment we fall back into our default mechanism, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm so stressed. Oh my God, I just took on another project. Why did I do that? I'm going to call them up and cancel and say, like, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I said I could do it and I really can't. And I apologize for the inconvenience. So it's like, as soon as we bring awareness, then we can transform it. So forward, back, and if we just keep in that same area, and we're not stepping beyond that, what am I holding on to? That's my complacency. What familiar pattern am I holding on to that I don't want to give up? And then when we get so frustrated, we say, I no longer wish to be the lineage bearer of fighting. I made that declaration in 2005. I no longer wish to be the lineage bearer of fighting. And then Krishna sent me 10,000 reasons to fight. And I was like, nope. No, come on, you got good reason to fight. Look at this. And I was like, nope. And maybe I got a little excited, but then nope. So it comes from within. We really want to really get intentional. What do we want? What do we want? Do we want to stay in those automatic pilots? It's our free choice. Or do we want to move out of them, even though it might be a little painful? Okay. Is that okay?
Amazing. You're always amazing. Question.
I think we should, let's see, it's 8:53. So let's just stop at 8:50, remind us, 7 more minutes. So you have a question and let's see if we can get Gail's in. I'll try to be more brief.
So when we're dealing with other people who have their own issues, that's challenging at the best.
Everybody in the whole world?
Yeah, so that's challenging at the best of times. And when we're endeavoring to sort of allow ourselves to become vulnerable, like you said, and dive into this process, then how can we deal with the demands of others in our life while we're in this vulnerable place, especially when it's challenging family members? Like I see for myself, well, finally, after so many years of neglect, I'm taking care of my business, but I still have to deal with other people's business. And I'm finding it really, really hard to find that balance. How can I be compassionate to both myself and to my family members?
Okay. So you've trained your family members in a certain way for a long time. And you didn't set boundaries. I'm going to get specific. You didn't set boundaries for a long time. So they're used to coming here and coming here. And now you're just trying to set boundaries. And they're like, wait a minute, that boundary wasn't there before. I used to be able to come over here. And now you're setting a boundary. So it's going to take a little retraining. You're retraining yourself. You're transforming yourself. And then you're going to retrain your environment. And you're being clear about what you feel and what you need and expressing that without being angry at the other person for their reaction. That's going to be very helpful. Now, when you've said yes, 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 and you start saying no, how do you think the person's going to feel? They're going to be upset naturally. That's kind of the reaction for your past activity of always saying yes. You've said yes, now you're saying no, and they're going to say, well, wait, that's not who you are. What's wrong with you? And they're going to push you. Why aren't you saying yes? You always said yes, and now you're saying no. So then you're going to have to take responsibility. Okay, I'm the one who trained people. I did that. I trained people. I trained people to yell at me. I trained people to fight with me. And now they're fighting even more. and I just said that I'm not going to fight anymore. So how am I going to deal with people fighting with me and I'm not going to fight? So then I had to look deeper in myself. And the more I just take responsibility for my own self and take responsibility and keep taking responsibility and, saying, even apologizing. I can't say yes to everything. And I wish I could. I'm not Krishna, and I really apologize. And I'm kind of setting new boundaries and, even asking, maybe please be patient with me. And maybe they will be, and maybe they won't be, because they have things that they're going on. Does that make sense? So it's always about this thing here inside of us. When we can take responsibility, when I can deal with my own self and my own stuff, and I can be compassionate and forgive this soul that I know all those things that I did, how awful and disgusting, when I know all those things and I can forgive myself and allow myself to move forward, then I can create that space for other people too. But every time I do it for myself, I'm actually doing it for others too, because then I'm not throwing my stuff on other people. I'm dealing with my stuff. Does that make sense?